Hi, good morning, everyone. Just give us a couple of minutes. We're still setting up, and we'll be starting the Zoom webinar in a short while. Just hold on there. Hey, everybody, we're ready to go. So just to let you know, we're streaming live from Tel Aviv this morning. We have a room packed of people. We've been overwhelmed by the demand for this topic. My name is Valentin. I'll be your moderator today. So we have our presenters, Sarung Tripathi from SingleStore. He heads our pre-sales globally. We are also joined by our friends at Twingo at AWS, who will be speaking in a minute. We'll start with the presentation from Sarung. He'll walk you through what SingleStore is, how you can build a Gen AI, and then we'll do the hands-on portion of the workshop. Just to let you know, we are asking everybody to log into Zoom so that they can get the materials online. I'll be posting links shortly of the notebooks and everything else that you can download. We are asking you as well to, if you can do as soon as possible, start a free trial on SingleStore. This is for the hands-on portion, and the good news is one of you, either in the room or online, will be in to win a raffle, which is Apple AirPod Pro. We'll send that over to you after the workshop. But in the meantime, let me hand it over to Golan and Tal from Twingo and AWS, just for a quick welcome before Sarung takes over. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Golan, the CEO of Twingo. Welcome for everyone, also Sarung and Valentin, come aboard for the meeting, the joint meeting of the Dev Day. I hope you will enjoy it. I think we have more. It's okay. We have something like 800 people registered for this, and we thought it will be small, so many of them will be online, and of course, welcome to all the people that come to the office. Thank you for AWS. We as Twingo, we are a big data and BI analytic company working in this field for around 14 years now. We have more than 120 customers. We are representing software companies around big data. SingleStore is one of the main technologies that we are working with for around 8 years now. We have something like 50 customers, big customers. Some of them are here, like Playtika and LeadSpace. don't know if and can Sky. We have customers like Armis and Palo Alto and Iron Source, Imperva and Zoom Info, and many customers in this field. We are going to do this day around generative AI and ChatGPT, but also about real-time analytics and big data. It's going to be very interesting. And we are here for any question. So thank you for joining us. And I want to welcome Tal from AWS, that he will talk a little about the vision of generative AI in AWS cloud.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Tal from AWS. I lead machine learning business development here in Israel. We'll take only 2 or 3 minutes from this day. So a little bit about AWS vision regarding generative AI. So AWS vision is, a lot is going on in this field. So every day, something new, something different. And AWS vision is allowing our customers to be able to utilize most of it. So not all of it, but most of it. So for example, Bedrock is our generative AI platform. We announced a few weeks ago. So there you can utilize first-party large language model called Titan. AWS develops, we develop in-house, but also you can utilize their third-party LLMs like AI21, Anthropic Claude, and so on and so forth. Using SageMaker, you can utilize also open source models and also proprietary models, as I said. And you can choose for every task a different model, right? So you can do simpler tasks with maybe smaller models, and maybe more complicated tasks with maybe bigger models. Again, if you want to utilize, for example, vector database, so now today you're going to hear one way of doing things. Can be a great way, can be the best way for you, but it's one way. You can also utilize, for example, OpenSearch as vector database, and so on and so forth. So the goal of AWS is just to allow customers to utilize every tool they can in order to build the best architecture for them. So this is about us. If you want to talk later on, I'm here. So and very happy to welcome and host you, our partners, Twingo and SingleStore. Have a great day.
Thank you. Awesome. How's everybody doing? Is English okay? You don't have a choice. Yeah, you don't have a choice. So. My name is Sarung Tripathi. I lead. They should probably be able to hear me too, right?
Yes.
Let's do that. Can I get some thumbs up on the web attendees? Everybody able to hear me okay?
Yeah.
People are doing the hand, which I assume means a good thing. All right, great. So I lead the solution engineering group worldwide here at SingleStore. My team is made up of solution architects, primarily pre-sales folks that work with folks like you to build generative AI apps, build real-time analytics apps. And that's what we're going to walk through today. So we're going to walk through who is SingleStore, what do we do, how are we positioned in the generative AI space, and then we will actually build a generative AI application together on top of SingleStore. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. So is everybody able to, is everybody in the room looking at the presentation screen on Zoom? All right, good, because you can't see the TV. All right. So if there are questions, this is for not just the folks in the room, but also for the folks on the webinar. Please enter your questions into the Zoom webinar Q&A. Even if you're in the room, you can feel free to do that. And then folks will answer the questions through that Q&A on the Zoom. All right. So, and then as Valentin mentioned, we are having a raffle today. So, when you spin up your SingleStore trial, whether you do that now or you do that when we do it as a group in a little bit, you will have you'll be entered into a raffle to win Apple AirPods. Cool. I'm going to make this a little bit interactive so it doesn't get boring. I hope you guys don't mind. I might call on people or hope that you guys interact a little bit. But who remembers this phrase? And I might be aging myself a little bit, but who remembers this phrase, software is eating the world, is Mark Andreessen about probably 15 years ago. has anybody heard this phrase, software is eating the world, or every company is a software company? Okay, I'm surprised. But would we all agree, at least in the room here, that every company has become a software company or a technology company? Pretty agreeable. Now, what we are seeing in the market, not just that, is not just that software is eating the world, but really AI is starting to eat the world. And I think that the last even 3 or 4 months has been a very good representation of that. Would we all agree? So what we are seeing here at SingleStore is that AI without data is like a powerful computer without a hard drive or memory. Can you imagine if your computer had no hard drive or had no memory? It would be pretty bad, right? So, what you're going to hear about today is how AI requires the ability to read, write, analyze, and contextualize on data in real time. So what we're going to talk through is exactly that, and that's what SingleStore's platform is. SingleStore is a database to transact, analyze, and contextualize data in real time. Does anybody know what that means? Good, because I'm about to tell you. All right, so let's just talk about transacting. So transacting on data in real time is really the ability to take real-time transactions through pipelines and ingest them very fast. So SingleStore has customers that are doing ingestion of data to the tune of 10, 15, 20 million records per second. We do that through sources like Kafka, sources like S3, various different sources that you might be using in your day-to-day. And this is all horizontally scalable. So if you scale out, you're able to ingest even more data. In addition to that, we are able to do very fast aggregate functions on data and do analytics on unstructured data as well. So not just relational, not just relational data, but also unstructured, like JSON, for example. Finally, the reason that you guys are all here is actually to talk about vectors. So SingleStore also has strong vector support, which gives you the ability to do things like semantic search, keyword search, prototype your solutions in notebooks, which is actually what you'll do today. And all of this, for the purposes today, will be deployed on AWS Cloud. So we have very strong support in AWS to deploy your applications globally, and we will do just that today. Cool so far? Awesome. So let's talk about what exactly under the hood, how SingleStore works. So the first is, and what you'll do a bit of today is actually our data pipelines. So ingesting data in real time or in batch from various different sources anywhere. Who uses Kafka in the room? Cool. S3? Cool. You're in an AWS office, so just say yes, even if you don't. So we have ingestion, mechanisms from each of those. The first thing that happens when data is ingested into SingleStore is it hits memory. Now, that is to give you the ability to access your data very fast. So we at SingleStore believe that, yes, you can ingest data very fast. Anybody can ingest data fast. But what's important about ingesting data fast is being able to access it fast as well. I don't want to ingest data fast and have it accessible in 2 hours or an hour or even in 5 minutes. I want that data to be accessible like this, right? So that's what memory enables you to do. But you don't want to keep your data in memory forever because it's going to cost a lot of money and your boss is going to hate you, right? So what we do is we immediately commit that data to disk. So that data is committed to disk, and we have on average for certain data types 75-80% compression on that data once it hits disk. So you're getting the beauty of being able to hit memory and ingest data very fast, but also commit to disk and access that data for analytics very fast. Now, who's familiar with the concept of separation of storage and compute? Yes? Hands? Okay, so SingleStore has separation of storage and compute as well, which means that the AWS workspace in SingleStore that you spin up today will be backed by what we call bottomless, which is cloud object storage. So that is backed by S3. If you exceed the disk today, if you put way too much data into SingleStore and the disk is exceeded, you will not get an out of disk error. The data will simply spill over to S3 and it's still accessible to you. Just one more note here. You guys are all users of SingleStore. today. And what you will be doing when you run queries, you'll be running queries against what's called an aggregator node. An aggregator node is just the one that listens to you and says, hey, throw me queries. I want to do something for you. Once you throw out a query, it goes down and hits leaf nodes. Leaf nodes are where all the data lives, where all the compute lives. And those are your, on the back end, AWS servers sitting in our cloud. And so you don't really need to know too much about that for the purpose of today's meeting, today's discussion. But this is just a little bit about how SingleStore works. We good kind of on SingleStore under the hood as a starting point? Cool, awesome. Cool. So we, I want to just take you back to what I said earlier. SingleStore is a database to transact, analyze, and contextualize data in real time. So let's talk about what transact means. Transact means the ability to do streaming ingestion, fast writes, do this at high concurrency, and be highly available all at the same time, right? So think of your traditional OLTP systems that were really good at fast writes and high availability and geo redundancy and things like that. SingleStore is very strong for transactions. In addition to that, we are very strong in analytics. So the ability to do blazing fast queries, large scale aggregations on large sizes of data. So one of our customers, for example, in the US is doing JSON analytics at scale on 2 petabytes of data using SingleStore. So they analyze product journeys of people that go, they put a tracker on websites, and they analyze product journeys of what people are doing on a specific page. For example, you land on a page, you click one link, you click another link, you add some things to your cart. Maybe I like the red shirt, the blue pants, and the sunglasses, and then I go to the cart, and then I hit X. How many of you done that before? We all do it, right? So this company called Heap actually leverages SingleStore to track that entire product journey. It's all JSON data, and then they run a funnel query on it. So a funnel query essentially says, okay, this many people were at this stage, this stage, this stage, this stage, and then this many people dropped, right? To give you the analytics on that product experience. They have, again, to the tune of 2 petabytes of that kind of data, and they're running those analytics on SingleStore. So that's just an example of the level of unstructured data analytics you can do and structured data analytics that you can do on SingleStore. Cool. So that's transact, that's analyze. The real purpose of what we're here to discuss today is actually our approaches around contextualization. So generative AI with vectors. Maybe just get a show of hands, at least in the room here, of who has built or played around with technologies in the Gen AI space in the last couple of months. You can raise your hands higher. I know you're like, it's like, maybe I have a little bit, maybe I haven't. All right, so let's get an example. Like, give me an example of technology that you've used for Gen AI.
I use the embedding of OpenAI to we do the platform on influencer. So we build a text around their context and create a vector from it, and we let people search semantically for influencers that fits them.
Cool. So just for the folks in the room, what was your name?
Eliran.
Eliran.
Yeah.
Eliran. So Eliran in the room is telling us that he built semantic search on top of vector embeddings to match influencers to individuals. That's really cool. So for example, that would be something like, say I love wine, I love sports, I love running. Find me 10 influencers that are that would be great to cater to me. Essentially, that's the use case. Very cool. Very cool. Anybody else? I saw more hands than that.
Yeah, I'm Sal from one. We have built what's called service copilot, which can help the leaders in the service area to understand better the business, how their users are behaving, how their assets are behaving. What we do, we take the historical data of the assets, of the cases, or even the knowledge base of your company, and we provide a check that can answer questions based on this data, and can also show metrics based on this data.
Very cool. So that's so you're essentially training an LLM over private data, over a company's data.
We use the data as context. Not private.
Okay, very cool, very cool, awesome. So let's just dive in here around sort of where the world is headed around generative AI, at least in our lens. So where we see the world heading is really in two directions around generative AI. The first is data apps. So applications with memory, similar to your sort of ChatGPT apps, which we'll discuss today, right? The next is agentic apps. So AI apps that actually take action. So these are primarily the two types of apps that we're kind of seeing our customers ask us for in the AI space. Now, what more specifically are we hearing? Similar to, and you have to remind me your name, not you, the one you. Sal?
Sal.
Cool. What we're hearing our customers and our, the developers that we engage with, across both AWS and SingleStore is that we want our apps to be data aware. My LLM should be custom to my data. My data should always be fresh to those large language models, and my data should be private and secure. So like you just mentioned, we should, we want to actually use, even if we're using public large language models, those should be able to run on my private data, right? So if how many of you use ChatGPT? Right, cool. I just asked ChatGPT to explain the protests in Israel for me because I couldn't understand it. So I used it just this morning. But yeah, so that, ChatGPT is obviously built on I was able to find out. Yeah, so maybe we don't discuss that here, but but I did learn a lot. Yeah. So I lost my train of thought. So ChatGPT is obviously it's trained on public data, right? But in order to actually get value out of this for your day-to-day use cases, you need this to be built on your private data. For example, SingleStore has actually built a generative AI app for its customers called the Squirrel Bot. It's called SQL with a little R in it, Squirrel. And this bot is essentially trained over all of our private data, our forums, our support tickets, our documentation, everything everything about SingleStore. So now you can go to SingleStore site. In fact, when you join your trial today, you can go to SingleStore site and ask it any questions about SingleStore, and it essentially asks the question of all of the information that we have about SingleStore and returns you a response. So you could say, hey, I'm running a query and it keeps giving me an error. Can you explain why? And it'll return you the sort of better version of that query in SingleStore context. Or you can just say, hey, help me understand how to use vectors in SingleStore, and it'll point you to that right documentation. This is an example of a data-aware app that is aware of all of SingleStore's data, not necessarily just public data that's sitting out there. Cool. So let's just talk quickly about vectors. And it sounds like at least some of us are aware of this. The 3 steps of vectors, especially as it relates to kind of using them in a database, is the first is creating vectors. You create these vectors using APIs such as OpenAI embeddings, Hugging Face transformers, and various different others. The next step is actually to store those vectors. So you can use indexes like inverted indexes, B-tree indexes, hash indexes, and similar. And then the next would be searching those vectors. So vectors are nothing without the ability to search them and search them fast using things like cosine similarity, Euclidean distance, Manhattan distance, and various different other ways of operating on vectors. How many of you have actually played with vectors? Cool. I'm convinced that everybody has, but only like half of the people are raising their hands, at least in the room. And if you haven't, we will dive into very kind of simple examples of doing that today. Cool. Now, the 4 steps of vectorizing data for an application. First is preparing that vector data and tokenizing it. The next is chunking it. We're actually going to chunk vector data today and create embeddings. We will do that. We will store those embeddings, and then we will search those embeddings today. So we will go end to end on this, the 4 steps of vectorizing data for an application today. Now, typically, and I'm super curious, I got the chance to speak to a few of you before we started today. I'm super curious if this is going to resonate with you guys. Typically, what we're seeing people do in generative AI today is that they're building, you're building applications for your end users and for your internal users. right? So you have maybe some BI apps internally, and then you have some end user apps, your sort of customer facing types of things. Think about Uber, for example, who's also a customer of SingleStore. Uber is building their surge pricing engine on top of SingleStore to actually surface up in the app to tell you what price you need. What price you're going to get for your ride, but they're taking that data and serving it internally for BI analysts to do analytics on all of that rider and driver data, right? So you have two different types of users. End users are accessing a company application. Typically what they do is that application is hitting an OLTP or a transactional database, doing some ETL to an OLAP database, doing some analytics on top of that for your enterprise users internally. I think we talked a bit about this earlier, and I can't remember your name. I'm so sorry. Right here. Yeah, from Bring, right? We talked about using potentially Postgres for an OLTP app, and then using some other big data services for the internal users. So very common paradigm. Most people have arrived at 2023 with this type of approach. And then 2023 said, hey, you need a vector database. Who's heard of a vector database? Probably most people in the room, right? Again, the one guy that raises his hand, I really appreciate your support. Yeah, but typically, what we're seeing typically is people have arrived at 2023 and with an OLTP and OLAP, and hey, I need a vector database. So what they do is that they go throw a vector database into there. We at SingleStore refer to this problem more broadly as database sprawl. I've got one database. Why shouldn't I have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5? Now, the issue with this becomes that a lot of your applications start becoming slower and slower as you're tossing data between these databases. We strongly believe that the sort of need for a vector database can be solved with solutions like SingleStore that have support for vectors, but are not just a singular vector database. And we'll talk about why right now. So if you can see the slide in front of you, specialized vector databases are limited in their SQL support. They're built only for vectors. And I'll use an example here that I hope resonates with you guys and sort of, what you could do with a vector database. Who here has ever robbed a bank? Okay, good. Me either. Yeah. He says I'm not going to raise my hand this time. Okay, I assume nobody on the webinar is raising their hand of having robbed a bank. So, okay. So if I were to go rob a bank tomorrow, which I will not do, there's probably going to be a video camera that catches my face, right? Now, what's going to happen after that is that they're going to take a database of maybe 1 million different faces of people that maybe look like me, and then they'll find my face and they'll match it to the face using vector embeddings, and they'll say, look, this is 99% to be Sarung Tripathi, right? But when you have a vector database, that is all you will do. You will stop at these 2 faces match. There is no support for additional other types of data, like where does Sarung Tripathi live? What was the last point in time that we saw him in Israel, which was when I got my blue card at the airport and they took a picture of my face, right? All of that other contextual data about me is not relevant in the vector database. So you have to go to a different database and get that data, and a different database and get the other data, right? This is fundamentally the problem with the vector database approach. There are a lot of there are great use cases out there that are a bit more simplistic in nature for simple matching of vectors and calculations across vectors, but this contextualization of data around vectors is not possible with just vector databases. Frankly, the other sort of issue with single purpose vector databases right now is the availability of enterprise features. Several of you are working at companies that probably require high degrees of security and resilience, which and perhaps even hybrid deployment options, which a lot of the vector databases don't offer today. So that's just a little bit about vector databases and sort of how we see the world. And then vector libraries, similarly, vector libraries like FAST and Annoy and HNSW that you've probably heard these, at least in a buzzwordy way at some point, are built for very high dimensions, which is awesome. But these, in the absence of sort of more enterprise scale services like AWS offers, they tend to be not as scalable and can be memory hungry. So these are just a few different approaches around vector data. We'll show you one today. As you mentioned, there are many different approaches to vector data, but this is ours. So like I mentioned earlier, the key thing that you'll want to sort of think about is, do I need context to my vector data? Do I need context to my ChatGPT app? Is it enough to just know that two vectors match each other? Is it enough to not have any context around those vectors? Because vectors will not give you context, and that's precisely what this beautiful image of some city somewhere on your screen is showing. So what is a contextual database? A contextual database is a database that will give me data, all data relevant to my company. As the example was given earlier, all of that data needs to be the contextual database needs to have all the data relevant to a company. It needs to be able to join all kinds of data. So not just vector data, not just transactional data, not just analytical data, but all kinds of data. It needs to be able to ingest data from various different sources, and the ability to do hybrid search. Hybrid search is the key feature requirement to contextual databases. And we'll talk about why in a second. And then the ability to quickly prototype and deploy is another big one. Now, I talked about hybrid search. SingleStore supports text, JSON, blobs, geospatial, time series, graph data, various different types of data in addition to vectors. So back to my example of that time that I didn't rob a bank. If I am matching two vectors together, I can also build context around that to say, when you return that query, show me where that person lives, show me who all their friends are, show me everything about that individual to get to the answer faster, right? And that's what a contextual query on a database is. Just so you guys can see here, here's an example of a generative AI app that we've built. I would encourage all of you to play around with this today or in your free time. But this is our bot within SingleStore. We've built a cute little squirrel graphic around it as well. So that's your sort of SingleStore copilot to help you with any queries that you have. So yeah. So what you'll see today is the ability to leverage SingleStore for an AI application, go into vectorize data inside of SingleStore, do matching, call out to OpenAI to get a ChatGPT response, and then return it to your user. So this is the approach of using a single database rather than the approach where you saw OLTP, you saw OLAP, you saw a vector database, and several others. Cool. So again, what you'll see here in a bit is the ability to choose LLMs and then choose a vector strategy, which we believe is SingleStore, and then do search and prompt on your data. I am going to, let's see, 1 second. Cool. So the first step, and it sounds like some of you guys have done this already, is running your LLMs privately. So you have a generative AI application. You could be using Langchain, for example, that's calling out to a commercial LLM. And then running that, you could also be using Hugging Face, for an example, in your step one, and then use a vector database like SingleStore that combines both your SQL data, your NoSQL data, analytics streaming data as an example, and run all of those in parallel. That would be sort of step one to building a generative AI application. Step two, how many of you have used an actual vector database, like a Pinecone or Milvus or something like that? Two of you. Okay, cool. So today we're actually going to show you, as it represented on this slide, how to use SingleStore as a vector database as well. So you'll store your vectors in a blob field. You'll pack your vectors as a 32-bit float within SingleStore, and then we'll show you how to do dot products, Euclidean distances, and various different operations inside SingleStore to build your app. I'll just kind of skip over this. I'll kind of explain how to do that in a bit. But as you add vector data to your database, you'll use a function inside SingleStore called JSON array pack, which essentially takes that takes those vector embeddings and then packs those into smaller form. And then if you need to actually go find out what those embeddings are, you can use a function called JSON array unpack. So it's super straightforward to use. Again, all these functions are built into SingleStore to work on your vector data. Here's an example of just doing nearest neighbor search within SingleStore. So a sample of dot product, and it's sort of exactly along the lines of the image example I used today. So we have several customers that have been using vectors in SingleStore for many years now. As Golan mentioned, Twingo's been working with SingleStore for many years, and a lot of the most innovative use cases around video, around image recognition, have come out of Israel actually. And so we're very proud of these sort of innovative use cases people are using SingleStore for. And this is just an example. Comparing two images together and getting a score that something, that those are say 99% or 85% similar to one another. So this is a space that we've been involved in for a very long time. And the AI wave is just sort of, our next foray into that. So what you'll also see today is the ability to filter information for performance, filtering data just to process very specific vectors. You'll see the ability to run, 10 plus different other functions on vectors within SingleStore, not just dot products. You'll also join and aggregate data across various different data sets and then communicate those back to an LLM. So very much end to end. Here's an example, just really quickly, of what I meant by kind of hybrid search and contextualization in SingleStore. So what you see here on the left is a simple semantic search. This is something that you could do in a vector database, a simple dot product across two different vectors, right? What a hybrid search enables you to do, and what you can do in a platform like SingleStore, is actually take that dot product and wrap it with additional SQL, additional joins to get context around that data. For example, this hybrid search that you see on the right side here is a movie recommender app. So if I tell a movie and I can actually pull up the app later. If I tell a movie recommender app, here are the 3 movies I like, it can give me 10 additional movies that I might like. But I have to be able to give it also additional context about who I am and things like that to help it recommend. A simple sort of vector database would just be able to take 3 embeddings about movies I like and match them to other embeddings without context. So that's kind of the difference between simple semantic search and hybrid search. Putting it all together, this is just an example of another type of use case that you will have access to within the SingleStore portal, which is actually breaking down PDFs. So you can take PDFs, break them down into chunks using OpenAI, and then those chunks become embeddings. So we'll actually walk through how to do this today, how to take documents, break them down into chunks, and break them down into embeddings, and then store them in SingleStore. Your app then calls SingleStore for those embeddings, matches documents, calls out to your LLM, and gives an answer to your user. So this is what an architecture of using SingleStore for a generative AI application would look like. And this is something to the effect of what you're going to build today. So without further ado, let's dive in. Cool. So I think we're doing great on time. Valentine, we're going to have them go through the raffle link, right? Just to make sure that they like to spin up the trial. Oh, you have? Okay, great. Great. All right. So, cool. I just put the link into the chat as well. So you'll want to use that link to sign up for your trial. And let's see. How do we get a gauge on how folks on the web are following along?
So that's 160 of
Mhm.
the file at the moment.
So if you're following my screen, I'll go ahead and actually spin up the trial myself. So I'm gonna just put in my name. Has anybody been able to sign up for the trial yet? We'll give you guys a few more minutes. And if you guys see my screen, this is what your screen should look like once you have spun up the trial, or once you have signed up for the trial, I should say. Yep. Cool. Oh, cool. Yeah. Anybody not able to sign up for the trial yet? Or has everybody been able to sign up for the trial? Yeah. If anybody online has not been able to sign up for the trial, please just say something in the chat. What's that?
No. It's dark mode.
Oh, dark mode. Nice.
Not in purpose.
All right. So how many of you see that button that says create a workspace?
Yeah.
Yep. In the onboarding checklist. Cool. So go ahead and select create a workspace on the onboarding checklist. Cool. So a workspace is actually just is as simple as this is your compute inside SingleStore. So you're going to spin up this compute. This compute's going to spin up an AWS cloud. And so you'll just want to start by selecting AWS and then whichever region that you want to spin it up in. So I would encourage you to spin it up in Northern Virginia or whichever region that you choose to spin it up in. So for the folks on the webinar, I'm going to go ahead and actually do this as well. So we'll call this workspace group. You'll hit next. And then within a workspace group, we have a concept of a workspace. So workspace is that you can have multiple different workspaces within a workspace group. And this could just be different compute. So you'll go on to create your workspace within your workspace group. There are different sizes. The size that you'll be using today is S00. This is the smallest amount, the smallest size, but this also just gives you the most efficient use of your credits of SingleStore.
Does anybody have issue with the notification? Yeah, it doesn't like.
What's that?
Notification, image notification, the notification doesn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Select all the stairs and bicycles. What?
How many other people are actually
Oh my God.
I might try it incognito. Try it incognito.
Do we need to use the Martech application?
You do not, no, you don't need to use the Martech application.
And the SingleStore guide?
No, you don't need to use SingleStore Kai. Yeah, so neither of those need to be enabled. Yep. Cool. All right. So for the folks on the webinar, just you create your workspace here, workspace one. Like I mentioned just now, you do not need to use the sample data sets or settings, SingleStore Kai or the Martech application. And I would just go ahead and select create workspace. So you'll see this spinning up. It's going to start your deployment just like any other cloud SaaS platform. It'll take a little bit of time to spin up. What we'll do is for the folks, I see a question in the Q&A. No, it shouldn't ask you for.
I don't have any.
Okay. Let me, could you just post your email address in the Q&A? If anybody else is having this billing issue, it might mean that you've used credits before or that somebody in your organization has used credits. That could be a potential issue. So I can just apply some credits in your account. So if you just post your email, I'll take care of it. Can you see which screen do you see on the Zoom portal? All right, perfect. Yeah, you can do that. Chat is closed. Cool. All right. So is everybody, is that anybody's workspace spun up yet? 100%? Okay, cool. Alex? Is that your name? Sorry. Oh, no, I gave you the credits on that account, so, yeah. So, whichever one, it's fine. Cool. There are a few people having issues. Oh, it looks like there are a few more. Bazid, is that you? Who's that?
I'm done, I'm okay.
Oh, you're good. Okay, so I took care of Bazid Sheikh. Cool. All right. So Bazid, you're taken care of. Alex is taken care of. Golan taken care of. Cool. All right. Anybody in this room not have a workspace yet? What are you at? What, 40, 50%? More than that? 80%. Cool. Good. Yeah. I have to confirm. Yeah, but you have to open up the firewalls and things like that.
Okay. Can I use the same, but the only reason is the intention, anything else.
He's thinking.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the main thing.
So I need like a Python project in order to.
Yes.
And then we can do the same.
Cool. All right. How are we progressing with our notebooks? Sorry, our workspaces. Anybody not at 100%?
I have stuff that I can't do.
Okay. All right, Eliran. Eliran, try again. For some reason, your trial subscription expired. I don't know if I think it might have been because you raised your hand too many times. No, I don't.
Yes, it's good.
Is
there an option?
Won't show everybody.
No. Generally speaking, not this one. Can I take my own friend contact? And then look at ChatGPT and then
Yes.
Outside by the engine.
Yes. We can talk about that at lunch if you're interested. I have samples of that.
I want to take our web content locally, ship of data that nobody really knows what's inside. A bunch of texts, everybody already.
של זה, אם רק היה להם וקטור דיבי.
We can talk about it at lunch.
I don't think that we have room. Like, people have to get something.
Yeah. Okay. All right. For the folks that have spun up the workspace, the next thing I'm going to ask you guys to do, where's the notebook at?
It's posted on the.
In the chat. Okay. So can everybody see the webinar chat? So the folks, for the folks that can see the webinar chat, hopefully is everybody, you'll see a message that says today's materials can be accessed today on Drive. If you hit that, what's that?
אז על Q&A אולי.
We'll just post it again. Done. So maybe you joined it, maybe you joined after that chat was sent. So you see that. What I want you guys to do now, and everybody that's in the webinar as well, is take that notebook link. It's an IPython notebook, and just download it to your local machine.
Can we? It's good.
No,
No, okay.
we're going to run this out of the SingleStore notebooks.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Does everybody in the room have it downloaded? The notebook, it's .ipynb. And do me a favor, do not open this in a local Jupyter client. We're gonna open this in the SingleStore notebooks. Trust me, it'll be easier that way. Just another quick question, and this is also for the folks on the webinar. Is anybody still having issues with workspaces, or are we still good? All right. So I want you all to do, if you look at my screen, you guys can do this on your screen as well. On the left side of your screen, you'll see something that says notebooks. Everybody see that? Cool. Hit the plus sign that's next to notebooks. There's a very small plus sign that's on the same line as notebooks. No need to do that yet. No need to do that yet. So you see this where it says new notebook. This is where you will have various different examples of AI notebooks and AI apps that you can build. We're not going to use these today. We're going to use a more, I would say, robust sample. But this is just where you will be able to find other examples of using AI with SingleStore. So hit cancel. And then go to personal. When you are at personal, in the top right, you'll see something that says new notebook. And then next to that, you'll see a little downward facing arrow. On that downward facing arrow, you can hit import from file. Now, what I want you to do is import that file that you just downloaded from the drive link. Like it. I might just take a moment. What's that? The plus sign, right? Yeah, that was just to show you the sample notebooks. Let me hit cancel. Go to personal. No, just hit personal. And then import from file. Anything okay over here? Import from file. Just go to personal. And then bring that file on this thing.
העליתי, לא?
Everybody else, anybody else? If it takes a moment to,
זה מה שעשינו, לעשות אימפורט על
to load in your,
זהו ניסיון.
if it takes a moment to load in your notebook. don't
לא אמר
worry
משהו על
about that.
הפרסונל או אושר?
You guys okay? Awesome.
טוב. אז לפתוח אותו.
Is there anything I need to address there?
No, I can send the notebook.
Cool. No worries. Oh, some people can't access Drive, I'm sure. All right.
אף אחד לא יגיד לך כלום. תלך עם הצ'אג על ה...
Did anybody, I just realized that we might have to take a step back. Did anybody click enable single store Kai when they were spinning up their workspace?
I deactivated it because I asked.
Because you asked. And my helper on the side here, my colleague has told me that we will need it, and I totally forgot. This is comical, but we're gonna have to create new workspace groups. Yeah, I'm so sorry about that, guys. We're gonna have to create new workspace groups. If you enabled single store Kai when you created your workspace group, then you are good. If you did not, I'll show you on the screen right now. Right here where you see in the settings when you're setting up a workspace group, enable single store Kai.
העליון היה אוף, התחתון היה...
No. And there's no worries at all. You can just let this workspace spin up. So you create your new workspace with single store Kai, you let it spin up, and then we'll work in the notebook while that happens. So there's no, you're not going to lose too much time here. Workspace group. No, you do not need the MarTech application.
Workspace group. אתה לא צריך גוף. תפתח בוורקספייס את הפלאס. כן.
I need their email address. So, and this is for the folks on the webinar as well. if you just create your new workspace group with SingleStore Kai enabled, or if you already have SingleStore Kai. Then you have nothing to worry about. In the room, just let me know when you guys have the new workspace creating. It doesn't need to be created, just have it creating, and then we can jump into the notebook. Good? Has anybody not spun up their new workspace because I didn't tell you to put SingleStore Kai? Is everybody spinning up their second workspace group? Enabled SingleStore Kai? All good to go. Awesome. All right, let's dive into the notebook then. Has everybody got their notebook ready? Yeah. And so your screen looks like my screen. Awesome. Cool. All right. So how many of you have ever gotten an email from a marketing campaign? We're asking super obvious questions today. In addition to the bank robbing question. So what we're going to walk through today is actually imagine you were an email marketer, the people that you hate. Just imagine you're them for a moment, right? Now think back to 10, 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, how people sent marketing emails. The way people sent marketing emails was they had the same email that went to everybody, and they had a long list of people, and they just put your name in that email. So, hey, John, hey, Jack, hey, Mary, hey, Alice, hey, and the same exact email, right? That's how, and sometimes they screwed up and it just said, hey, first name, right? So this is sort of how things used to work in the email marketing world. This is going to be the basis of how the application we're going to build today. We're actually going to build an app around email marketing to show you the difference of using SingleStore for an email marketing app versus using a combination of OpenAI, Pinecone, and MongoDB to do all of that. So the first step of what you're going to see, if you go to just the first cell in your notebook, this isn't going to actually use anything on SingleStore. It's just going to do a simple Python script. Give me a list of people and write an email to those people. Let's start by running this. Does everybody see the output of this? Does it look like a marketing campaign that you've probably gotten before? Hey, Alice. Hey, Bob. Hey, Charlie. Hey, David. This is how people used to build marketing campaigns with a simple list and iterate through that list. Now, the next step of this is the ChatGPT world. So in this scenario, what we could do if I were an email marketer is say, hey, let's use ChatGPT to write the email and send it to everybody. Makes sense, right? Because it'll give me a creative email. This is the step for which you'll need your OpenAI API key. Does everybody have one?
Yeah.
Cool. No. Okay. So do you have a OpenAI account? Okay. I'm going to post I think Valentin, you posted a link, but I'm going to post a link for everybody on where you find your OpenAI API key. So you will see, if you go to that link I just sent, you will see a page in your OpenAI console that looks exactly like mine, where you can generate an API key if you do not have one yet.
Okay, no. So that's only for the opening. זה לא בצ'אט שלו. Platform open.
Cool. Has everybody accessed their API? Yes. Yeah, you're not able to put in the chat, but we have put something in the chat, so you should be able to view the chat. Yeah. Does everybody have an OpenAI API key? No, you need to generate it on. Do you have an OpenAI, like a ChatGPT account? Oh, but yeah, anybody that's having an issue. So I posted in the chat how you get your OpenAI. Oh, yeah. Maybe I'll put it in the Q&A as well. Yeah, so it's in the Q&A as well now. For the folks that have their OpenAI API key. Folks, if you have your OpenAI API key, you can go ahead and run the setup OpenAI, that prompt where it says pip install OpenAI. You can run that one. And it will ask you for your OpenAI API key in a prompt below. Has everybody been able to put in their OpenAI API key? Has anyone yet successfully run you have successfully run that command?
Yes.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Awesome. So can anybody take a look at this and tell me what this prompt is actually doing? I'm just curious. What's that? Yeah. Yeah. So what we're doing in this step of the prompt is actually just telling OpenAI, hey, you're a helpful assistant. I'm a marketer named John. I want you to create a body of an email for me for a fictitious company called Awesome Web Analytics. But the context of this company should be based on the top web analytics companies out there, right? So write an email as if you are based on these top web analytics companies out there. Make sense? Cool. Anybody still stuck on API key? Can I help anybody with that? Cool. All right. So now that we've given the prompt, we okay? Now that we have given the prompt to OpenAI, what we're going to want to do is actually just loop through and run a function to generate an email. Okay. So let's press play. And then you can run the next one as well. And so this is actually going to write emails based on that prompt and store them in a list. Error? Oh, you exceeded your.
Everybody, oh, I think everybody has the same error.
What's your error?
It's the same one.
Yeah, it's a ChatGPT error. Oh, you know what, guys? Sorry. There's another step here you're gonna have to do. Does everybody see my screen? In the top right of your notebooks, hit edit firewall. You guys are running into firewall issues within you have to basically enable your notebook to be visible to OpenAPI. To OpenAI. Oh, yours worked without it? Okay, so some people's is working, some people's is not. That is interesting. Can you, for somebody that worked, can you open your firewall? I just want to see, maybe yours already has it in there. It's already in there. So for some people's, it's not.
Okay. Open it.
Yeah, so for the folks, somebody show me whose didn't work. Maybe yours didn't work.
Mine didn't work.
Let's look at the firewall for you.
But open it is here.
It's in there.
Yeah, mine for me also.
So some people are hitting rate limit. What's that?
I had premium.
Maybe it's real quota of OpenAI.
What's that?
Maybe it's quota.
Yeah, it could be a quota issue with OpenAI
Let's
from SingleStore, maybe.
it's quota per
Yeah.
we will try to explore it.
Okay. Okay, so while we're in the firewall though, guys, let's go ahead and put in some other things in the firewall that you need. So can everybody go to the edit firewall? Just so we can proceed some errors and future steps.
Yeah.
Is everybody at edit firewall? Make sure that your firewall includes what my firewall includes here. So you'll see, by default, you'll see things like Hugging Face and Google APIs. What I also want you to include is the ones that I have here, and I'll type them in the chat for you. In the edit firewall, So I'll go ahead and put into the chat.
אולי אפשר לעשות גם את הטריק הזה של הכוכבית כוכבית, להוסיף כוכבית כוכבית. אוקיי, לא יודע.
Can you show them again because the
Yep.
chat is not.
It didn't go in the chat?
No.
That's so odd. Here, it's just
The last three.
the last three.
כוכבית פיינקון, כוכבית כוכבית פיינקון, כוכבית.
And this is just because our sample is also going to show how you would do it in Pinecone. So so this just gives you some samples.
פיינקון. נכון, אני גם חושב שזה בגלל שזה נכון, זה לא קשור. לא, זה לא קשור.
Has everybody put in the firewalls? Everybody good? Anybody not good?
I don't see it in the chat. Yeah, no.
It's weird that it's not in the chat. Could you maybe show him?
Yeah.
פיינקון IO או קום?
IO.
IO.
So for those of you who have edited your firewall, just go back through and the function definition called ChatGPT generate email, which is on my screen right now. If you guys ran that, go ahead and run the cell after that as well. And then run the print out the list cell as well. What's that? The precepts should have been run already, so. So who all has gotten to the print out the list step? Awesome. If you guys don't mind, if people around you haven't gotten there, maybe we can help one another. So anybody that's having issues, or you're able to print out the list. All right, you're having a rate limit error? That's OpenAI.
אין לשנה את המודל רגע. אולי אם נשנה ל-GPT במקום 3.5 טורבו. רגע, אני רואה מה איזה מודלים יש עדה, יש זה. תנסה לשנות הנה אני מנסה לטקסט דווינצ'י 0.3. וואלה, לא. וואלה, I'm sorry, we're still getting the
Rate limit error?
yeah, you see the current quota, but it's a new API key. Actually, I paid, so I'm not sure what's wrong. We thought trying different models maybe and see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly.
You're not sure it's gonna work. הכי זול. מה? שינית משהו?
Good? Yeah, you might need to change the model you're using if you're getting the rate limiting. Have you guys made it to the pace, I forgot the name of the step already, but so you've looped through and request. So the folks if you've printed out the list and you're able to actually see these emails that OpenAI is generating based on your list, what you'll notice is that these are all random emails, right? So there's no context at all to what this marketer is actually sending to the end user, right? There's no context at all on what they're doing, on what perhaps what the user's been doing in their product. And so what we're going to do today is actually build context around that. So one way that people build context is actually customizing content to user behavior. So if you look at the next thing, a lot of, the example that I used earlier around how one of our customers is using JSON to track product usage. Imagine if this awesome web analytics company that we're building an app for right now had all of their product user data in Mongo, right? If they had all their product user data in Mongo, they're able to say, hey, this product user is at this stage at this given time, things like that, right? So what we're actually going to do is we're going to take some usage data and put it into Mongo. You might be wondering why a database company called SingleStore is helping you use Mongo and Pinecone, but we'll get to the why. The step here, what we're going to do is actually just initialize a Python client and pull in data. Pull in data, look at what our users are doing inside the product. So go ahead and run that. That starts with pip install pymongo. So what this step's actually going to do is take a look at various different stages that our customers are at in our product. They might be getting started or generating a code or doing real-time analytics or doing funnels or user segmentation. But these are various different steps within our product that could be stored in JSON. So has anybody been able to run this Mongo code block? Anybody not? Anybody having errors with it? What about folks over here? Mongo code block, good. Anybody not able to run the Mongo code block? All right. Hey folks, can I get everybody's attention up here? Now that we've actually now that we are taking a look at product usage data, let's give that to the model again and see what our new emails look like, right? So that's the loop through users and collection step. Now let's take a look at the prompt real quick. The prompt says, hey, you're a helpful assistant who works for me. I'm marketer John again. Help write the body of an email for a fictitious company called Web Analytics, Awesome Web Analytics. But we have users that are at various stages of our pipeline using our product, and we want to send them helpful emails. Please write an email for so-and-so who is on a certain stage of the onboarding process. And the next stage is this, right? So you're at the real-time tracking stage and you want to do funnel analysis, right? So write an email contextual to the usage data of the customer, right? So let's go ahead and run that. And then we can go ahead in the next cell, print those responses. Just like you guys to perhaps raise your hands when you have, just briefly raise your hand once you have that step complete, and we can kind of walk through that. How are we doing on this side of the room? Are you good? What about over here? You guys good? Sorry, I'm not gonna be like a teacher. I just want to make sure you guys are able to address. What about this on the left side? You guys good? You ran that step? Called out to, so at this point, we're calling out to MongoDB saying, hey, Mongo has all the product usage data. Let's pull it out and tell the user based on where they are in our product history, let's write them an email, right? All right, so Eliran, what's the output of yours? So for me, it says first name Emily. What's the output of yours?
Yes, so first name Emily, save edit traffic to the website, and next thing is real-time analytics.
Cool. So ChatGPT has just written an app based on product history data in Mongo that says, hey, you're at the current stage of add tracking data to your app. The next stage is real-time analytics. You should use our product, blah, 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 right? Now, that's great. Product history data sitting in Mongo. But again, we've just added a little bit of context on top of what OpenAI gave us. OpenAI gave us a generic email, and now we're adding some context, a little bit of context data, unstructured data using Mongo, right? Anybody not at this step? Sorry, I'm a little bit of a control freak, so don't mind me. Everybody good? Cool. All right. So now we've got some unstructured data using Mongo. Fantastic. But what about vectors, right? We're here to talk about ChatGPT. We're here to talk about generative AI. Let's talk a little about using vectors. So the first step is, okay, how would I even use vectors in a use case like this? Perhaps I'm an awesome web analytics company, and I've got a bunch of documentation about my product. So I've got product usage data, and I've got a bunch of documentation about my product. Now what I want to do is actually go vectorize all that documentation so I can do matches. If somebody's using this part of my product, I want to match it against documentation that I have and give them a recommendation, right? So first, I'm going to create an array of all of my documentation. That's what you see here. You can go ahead and run that step. The next step is actually using Langchain. So this step using Langchain is actually going to chunk all of that data. All of my documentation data is going to get chunked using Langchain. So these are just PDFs that are sitting out on GitHub that I can chunk using a splitter in Langchain. Go ahead and run that. That should take a couple seconds. Anybody not able to do that? Everybody's like staring at their screens. I can't tell if everybody, like there's one guy looking at me, so I can't tell if everybody's good or not. Like, you guys are good? Good? Cool? Good. All right, cool. So now the next step that you have to do in any sort of model building like this or AI building is make sure your chunks aren't too large. And if your chunks of data from the documentation are too large, it's going to be super slow to actually match over. So just ensure your chunks of documentation aren't too large. Did everybody get a message that says good to go? Cool. All right. So now what I'm going to do is actually go get those vectors. So I'm going to go take all of my splits of documentation of that content and get vectors out of them. You can see here I've used my API key. You might put yours in. or I might get rate limited. I want also everybody to just go ahead and run the step that says ensure notebook data rate is updated. This is just a validation step. So once everybody gets to the step that says create embeddings of documentation, just I don't know, give me some sort of indication, yell your name or put a hands up or a thumbs up or something like that. Cool. How are you guys doing? Oh, not everybody is. Some, I don't know. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah. All right. So now, we talked about getting chunks of data from our documentation. The next thing we're going to do is actually create embeddings from that. So we'll take all those chunks of documentation and create vector embeddings of those chunks. So let's run that step. And this is a step that takes about 2.5 minutes, but it's literally going to take, and I've done a bit of verbose printing here, but this is actually going to take and create vectors for each table in my documentation of this awesome web analytics company doc. So this is going to iterate over all of my documentation and create embeddings.
By the way, when you do documentation updating,
Yeah.
you need to rerun it.
Yeah. So what we would do in that case, and not in this example, it's a little bit more simplistic, I would say. But what you would do is basically listen for changes in the docs, and
you have only to update one doc, or
just update one doc. Yeah.
So segmentations inside of something you don't.
Exactly. Yeah. So the next step after this, we're going to actually use Pinecone with these embeddings, but let's just take a second while you guys actually create vector embeddings over all the documentation. You guys.
The SQL command, is it in any IPython notebook, or is something special for your notebook or your lecture? Because I never seen it, and I wonder.
I think you can import SQL libraries to enable you to write SQL code in notebooks.
Yeah. Like,
But
we are using a Snowflake, so we have the Snowflake connector API. But,
Yeah.
I just wondered about. Yeah, it's not a common magic command.
Yeah.
Cool.
Has anybody's vector embeddings finished? Yeah, it's about 3 minutes. So it's creating embeddings over all of these. So, oh, you brought me a gift?
No, your gift is other class. You got me a gift yesterday.
See, 2 people left already. They're not going to get a gift, but you guys get gifts. So. All right.
Yes.
What is this?
Ensure data rate is you have to increase that data rate limit. Yeah, and then run that cell. Has anybody else run into this data rate limit issue?
Yes.
So there's everybody?
No, we not.
How much shot?
No, we can't.
So if you're having hey folks in the room. If you guys are having the issue that these folks are having here around the data rate, there's a cell above where you can increase the max data rate. Select that and then run again. Also, it might help if you're using your own API key there in that cell. That would be helpful as well. Were you using your own API key?
Okay. מי לא קיבל? But where do you? כולם קיבלו? שומר.
Oh, wait, guys, this is just did anybody else just get this Jupyter server will temporarily stop sending output? That's fine. It's still running the command. It's just not sending the output to the client. So you should be fine. If yours says this Jupyter server will temporarily stop sending output, that is not an error, that is a warning. Has anybody gotten to the setup Pinecone client step? Has anybody else gotten past the chunking step, the 2.5 minutes chunking step? Just finished? Yeah. And guys, and then have you guys gotten past that step? You're just rerunning it. How about the folks in the back of the room? Because I'm going to kind of move a little bit faster now because we only have 15 minutes. If you get past that step, go ahead and set up the run Python, Python client. Oh, sorry, Pinecone client.
You're using that key for the Python client?
Yes, use the Pinecone client key that you're given there. Eliran, are you good? Okay. How's everybody on this side doing? I don't know anybody's names over here, so I can't bother them. What in the back? You guys have set up your Pinecone client? And if you get a little warning at the bottom of the Pinecone client, that's completely normal. You guys good? Yeah. Yeah, that's completely fine. It's just not sending an output to the client, but it's still running in the background. Cool. All right, so let's keep moving, guys. What we've done, right? We've gotten all these embeddings from our documentation. And now we're going to store them in Pinecone. We're also going to store them in SingleStore. So go ahead and do the drop database customers and create database customers command. Well, yeah, like I said, it was just a warning, it's a small warning.
זה עדיין פתרון כזה, אבל זה עכשיו סיים, סתם לא רוצה לעשות.
מה זה כאילו?
כן, כן, כן. לא מדפיס את זה
יכול להיות שזה רק
And then,
כן, כן.
folks, go ahead and start running your create database commands in SingleStore as well. Have you guys done that?
Yeah.
Looks like a few people have. The Pinecone doesn't want to stop running, you said?
Yeah.
You're getting a no database selected? So, hey, for the folks whose Pinecone thing is running too long, just refresh your browser. It'll stop the Pinecone running. That's not an integral part to the SingleStore demonstration. So you might just like move past that. And then go ahead and run your create table statements. If you're getting something that says no database selected, you'll see that where it says insert into SingleStore, under that it says navigate to the drop down next to your workspace name and change the database to customers. So as you'll see here on my screen, you have to select database customers at the top next to your workspace name. Make sure you are selecting the workspace that had Mongo Kai enabled. Is anybody at the SQL alchemy step yet? People are getting through it, but it's a little bit, it's a bit slow. How are you doing?
looks like it's populating the
The insert statements? Those should only take a few seconds though.
No, it's after that. It's running on the
Yeah. That's great. Awesome. Yeah, that's fine. Has anybody gotten to the SQL alchemy step where we're doing inserts into the database? Yeah. Yeah, on the next one, you can get a warning, no big deal. What you've just done is actually put all of the embeddings from your our documentation into SingleStore. For those of you that did the Pinecone step, you also put it into Pinecone, just to demonstrate how to do it in a vector database as well. Anybody down to the create embeddings for our stages step? Folks on this side of the room, you're good. Are you guys good? Sorry, I don't know your names.
We're good.
Create embeddings for our stages. So this is just going to say, for all of our documentations, we've created embeddings. Let's also create embeddings for all the stages that our users could be at within our web analytics tool. If you've gotten to the search Pinecone for closest result step, go ahead and run that. Yeah, because your Pinecone step probably did not run. If your Pinecone step did not run, then this Pinecone email generation will not run. If you guys want to kind of understand the context of using Pinecone here, essentially what Pinecone's, the example that we used earlier is Pinecone's going to help you do, take my documentation, take the stages of the user journey, match them, and recommend a document. Again, just vector related things, right? If you got through that step, you'll see the emails that you could generate from Pinecone. But I'd like everybody to just kind of skip down to the part that says, let's make this easier with SingleStore DB. If you get to the part that says, let's make this easier with SingleStore DB, everybody just go ahead and run this create link Mongo command. Did that run? Okay, so no firewall issues to Mongo, which is great. Awesome, cool. So you've created a link to Mongo. Anybody use MongoDB before? Raise your hands if you've used Mongo. Awesome. So SingleStore Kai, which is what you had to go back and actually enable on your SingleStore workspace, is encompassed two main features. One is actually an API for MongoDB. So we have an API for Mongo, so you don't have to change any of your Mongo applications. You can just connect to SingleStore, and your applications are able to do 100x faster analytics on that data that was sitting in Mongo. The other aspect of Mongo Kai is native change data capture from Mongo. So what you've just done is created a link to a MongoDB cluster. We're going to pull that product data that we talked about earlier from Mongo into SingleStore. So that's the link you just created. Now let's run the command that says create tables as inferred pipeline load data. That run okay for everybody? Still running, somebody said? It's good? Cool. Now let's go ahead and start that pipeline. Now the pipeline, like we talked about earlier, is ultra fast ingestion of data into SingleStore. So you start the pipeline customers. Now let's say select star from customers, limit 10. Everybody see data? What you've just done is you real-time stream data over from MongoDB into SingleStore. So that product data that we talked about earlier that was sitting in Mongo is now sitting in SingleStore.
So it's updating data in like
Yeah.
Debezium or something like that.
It's a Debezium based connect. Yeah. Anybody are you guys having issues back there? How are my two in the back doing? Good? You pulled your data in from Mongo? Awesome. All right. So let's go ahead and run the next step that says model customer tables and connect to SingleStore. The next thing that you're going to do now that you have that data in SingleStore is what you'll also do is a dot product in SingleStore. So this is actually going to compare the documentation embeddings that you loaded into SingleStore with the stage that the user's at in your product. How did you know the stage the user was at? Because we just brought that data in from Mongo, right? So now what you're able to see is unstructured data from Mongo, vector embeddings within SingleStore, all in one database rather than using Mongo and Mongo and Pinecone and potentially other databases. So now let's loop through the customers. This is the final step. And print out emails. Eliran, because I've been picking on you, I want you to tell me a little bit about the email that is generated at the end of your notebook. Oh, did you just? Yeah. We just printed one for this one. So
First name Stephanie, state panel, and next day presentation.
yeah, go ahead and read it.
AWS you're enjoying your experience with Awesome Web Analytics so far. I want to reach out and let you know that you now at stage of funnels in our onboarding process, and the next stage is user segmentation.
Okay, so what we just got was the stage they're at from the product data that was sitting in Mongo and the stage that they're going to be at, right? And then what else is there?
Some information about the next stage and the link that you.
Yeah, okay, so sorry about that. The link isn't formatted, but what you're getting again, guys, just to give you like sort of a full picture into what you've just done is you can set up Mongo to do your unstructured, you can set up Pinecone to do your vector data, you can set up Snowflake to do your analytics, or what you've just basically shown in the last step here is that you can do the unstructured, you can do the vector data, and if you use some of the other examples in SingleStore, you can also do analytics in SingleStore. So several different multifaceted multi-dimensional different types of data that you can use to build generative AI apps in SingleStore. So I know we're running out of time. If you guys have questions, I'm here for as long as you need me to be here. But yeah, that is about it. There are also other notebooks within the SingleStore trial to do things like semantic search, generative AI that you can play with at any time as well. Were you able to finish? What happened? Yeah, you could skip that though, right?
Yeah, I read it.
Cool.
By the way, when you do the embedding to OpenAI, is it kind of became a public data or it's just service they're giving? So it's not indexed into the.
No, it's not re-indexing it back
It's
into.
just a service to convert real data to vectors. Right?
Yes.
And it's fully like trusted or something, or there is like alternative to do that, maybe in AWS. Something like that?
Yeah, there are alternatives to do that as well.
So it's not under the.
Right.
Very good.
Awesome. We still have 100 people here, it looks like. If there are additional questions online, feel free to ask them.
The event is recorded, so we'll send the recording afterwards as well to all the attendees.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone.